I'm Glenn.
I'm Gertie.
Welcome to Masterpiece Auditorium.
Welcome to Masterpiece Auditorium, where I, Gertie, and this monster, Glenn, are going to read two short stories by Drac von Stoller. We're going to be reading Captain Bloodybones and Vamperstein.
And you get this sloppy episode because we're leaving the country and we're recording this on a night that we plan on staying up till 4 a.m.
So we're less jet-lagged on Monday.
Get our bodies ready for our ridiculous time change.
Can't guarantee it'll work. I'm already tired.
I know.
It's 9:39.
9:39 and we're staying up till like 3 a.m. or 4.
And the dog's crying.
This was your idea.
Thanks for joining us.
Let's get into the story. Captain Bloody Bones by Drac von Stoller. Captain Johnny Bones loved to sail the seven seas with some of the roughest shipmates that ever sailed. Captain Johnny Bones' ship was called Bloody Bones because every ship that crossed Captain Johnny Bones' path would be hammered with cannon fire, and when Captain Johnny Bones got through with the crew, there would be nothing left but, quote, bloody bones, unquote. When Captain Johnny Bones and his shipmates came aboard, they stole all the gold aboard and would slit every crew member's throats aboard and watch their jugular veins squirt blood on the other dead bodies they were laid upon. Just before Captain Johnny Bones and his men would climb aboard their ship, Bloody Bones, they would roast the dead man's hearts over their burning bodies and eat their hearts to show that Captain Johnny Bones and his men were the toughest pirates in the sea. Very few men in Captain Johnny Bones' ship would ever backtalk Captain Johnny Bones because if they did, they would either walk the plank or have their heads cut off, and a rope would be threaded through both ears and tied above their heads, and the long end of the rope would be tied to the rail, and the head would hang a couple of feet along the side of the ship. When the other pirate ships dared come alongside of Captain Johnny Bones' ship and see all the severed heads along the side of the ship, that was enough to make any pirate ship retreat and head back home. Captain Johnny Bones had a big ego and would love to attack any ship in its path, friendly or not. Regardless if another pirate ship was nearby, it was certain Captain Johnny Bones would fire upon that ship so that there was no avoiding the Bloody Bones ship.
But they were retreating. They retreated the sight of all the heads, but there's no retreating.
There's no retreating.
No, there's no escape. If you can see the heads, you're already dead.
That's true.
That's their motto.
And I think I like the rhythmic, repetitive nature of saying the word ship a lot within a 12-word.
It's very Ray Bradbury.
It's brave.
Yeah, it's masterful.
Masterful. Captain Johnny Bones liked to let his crew aboard the enemy ship and completely subdue them, and then one of his men would wave a shirt on a stick for Captain Johnny Bones to come aboard and enter the enemy's captain's quarters, where his men would have the captain tied to a chair. Captain Johnny Bones would slit the captain's neck, then cut the captain's heart out and eat it. While blood was dripping down the mouth, Captain Johnny Bones would shout out to his men and say, "Who is the roughest and toughest pirate of the sea?" Not a question mark, that's a period. His men would answer, "Captain Johnny Bones." One of the Captain Johnny Bones men shouted out, "Captain Johnny Bones, why don't you change your name to Captain Bloody Bones, because you are the most bloodthirsty pirate of them all?" And Captain Johnny Bones said, "I like it, comma, I like it, period." As the men gathered up the enemy's gold, all the dead men's bodies were placed in a pile and set on fire, and their hearts were cut out and eaten by Captain Bloody Bones and his men. Captain Bloody Bones and his men ruled the seas for many years until most of Captain Bloody Bones' men started dying from eating all those bloody hearts.
No, it does not say that.
It for real says that. That's the reason why I do the punctuation. Like when they ask a question,
Yeah.
His, whatever, who is the roughest and toughest pirate of the sea? There's no question mark. It's just period. So it's not a question. It's just a declaration. They start dying from eating all the hearts. Captain Bloody Bones' crew was down to a mere 7 men, including Captain Bloody Bones. Finding men as rough and tough as his crew was his chance of finding anyone else was slim to none. Captain Bloody Bones and his men were sitting ducks out in the lonely sea. No, Captain Bloody Bones' ship was sailing through the lonely sea for months without an enemy in sight. Captain Bloody Bones usually fought other pirate ships weekly, but since Captain Bloody Bones wasn't feared anymore, ships would pass by and laugh.
Wait, I love the thought that they're just aimlessly floating through the sea.
Yeah. Easy targets.
Hoping to come across another boat.
I guess, because they don't have enough crew to actually steer it.
He doesn't really say that. He makes it sound like pirates never dock to, resupply or change out staff.
Kind of a water world approach towards storytelling.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That there's no other option.
There's no land as far as a pirate's
concerned. The land
concerned.
is lava.
They land exactly. If the land's lava, because if they land there, they're going to get arrested
for eating all those hearts. Yeah. Yeah.
Which unfortunately killed off most of the crew.
Yeah. Why would that be? Of gout, you think, maybe?
Well, maybe we need to do a medical corner. Do you have anything you want to say about that?
Eating organ meats will give you gout, but that just gives you, really bad joint pain. I don't know if you can die from gout. It doesn't look like it'll kill you. No, especially not when they're cooking it.
I don't think they're cooking it. I got the impression
they're roasting it over a fire. They make a fire and they roast the hearts and then they eat the hearts.
Okay.
As he said at least 4 times.
I get caught into the rhythmic and almost hypnotic thing that happens from him now, this time. Yeah. Not saying the word ship so much, but just Captain Bloody Bones over and over and over again. So I start to lose the story.
Every sentence / paragraph, because each paragraph is a whole sentence.
Yep, exactly.
Starts with Captain Bloody Bones.
Mm-hmm. The end was near for Captain Bloody Bones and his men because a new pirate named Captain Severtooth wanted Captain Bloody Bones and his ship sunk. Yeah, Severtooth. Captain Severtooth got his name because whenever his men would take a ship over and gold, Captain Severtooth would cut out the enemy's teeth while they were still alive for souvenirs. The next day, as the not-so-rough and roughest pirates of the sea were looking for an easy ship to take over, happened to cross paths with Captain Severtooth's ship. Captain Severtooth and his crew outnumbered Captain Bloody Bones' men 3-1, so Captain Bloody Bones and his men didn't stand a chance because at least 3 out of the 7 men of Captain Bloody Bones' men were deathly ill. Looks like the end of the road for Captain Bloody Bones and his men. Captain Severtooth's ship fired upon Captain Bloody Bones' ship, rendering it useless. Captain Severtooth boarded Captain Bloody Bones' ship and killed all 6 men in front of Captain Bloody Bones. Captain Bloody Bones watches Captain Severtooth's men cut out Captain Bloody Bones' men's teeth while they lay there screaming in agony. Do you cut out teeth? You pull them out.
You can't cut them out.
I mean, you could if you had a really sharp saber or a katana. Katanas are pretty sharp. Katanas are so cool. And there's nothing Captain Bloody Bones could do but watch. Well, I finally get to meet the roughest and toughest, bloodthirsty pirate of the sea. Guess what? Looks like you're not so tough after all, Captain Sissy Bones. Looks like my men did a good job finishing off the rest of your crew, and I got 6 more sets of teeth to add to my collection. Did I just say 6? I meant to say 7 sets of teeth. Oh, I didn't mean to leave you out, Captain Sissy Bones. Sorry, I meant to say Captain Johnny Bones, because the captain always goes down with the ship, just like you will, once I remove your teeth, said Captain Severtooth. Captain Severtooth's men held Captain Bloody Bones down on the deck and cut out Captain Bloody Bones' teeth, and then gathered all of Captain Bloody Bones' gold from his ship, Bloody Bones. Is his ship called Bloody Bones?
I guess
we're learning that now. Captain Bloody Bones' teeth, and then gathered all of Captain Bloody Bones' gold from his ship, Bloody Bones. Captain Severtooth set Captain Bloody Bones' ship, the Bloody Bones, on fire, then climb back aboard their ship Severtooth. Each ship is...
Brilliant.
Okay, they climb back aboard their ship Severtooth and watch Captain Bloody Bones' ship and all his men sink to the bottom of the sea. Captain Severtooth and his men would be the most feared pirates of the sea for many years to come, until the next roughest and toughest pirate ship would come across their path and take over the sea, just like many pirates before them.
Oh, I thought he was
The end.
Oh.
Yeah, you thought you were going to go to a third generation of pirates?
I thought we were going to see, like, Captain Stubtoe.
Captain quarter-inch thick toenail.
Captain pilonidal cyst.
Wow.
It's like when you get a cyst of hair on your tailbone and they have to make an incision and drain it and pack it until it heals.
Oh, my Lord.
Very painful, very stinky.
Is it stinky?
Yeah.
Because does feces somehow get into
Full
it?
of hair and shit.
It's just the rotting hair?
Sebum.
Again with the sebums. Okay, so reviewing this story.
I think it was brilliant.
It is very good.
So, not even as part of our bit, if I could write something like this on purpose, I would be very happy. But I don't think you can. I think this is natural talent.
This is the beauty of it. This person
he's just like this.
has been at this since like 2012, 2010.
Yeah.
And I don't think very aware. Also, as a side thing, I've reached out to this author once back in like 2014, like, hey, can we read your stories for this podcast I was doing with Kim and Brian? And he was the nicest. Read anything you want. I'm like, okay, do you want to review it before we put it out there? He goes, nope, just do what you want. And then during COVID, when I started doing the podcast again, I reached out to him, but I couldn't find him. Like, he wasn't answering, and it looks like all of his stuff stopped in like 2019. I'm like, oh no, did Drac von Stoller die of COVID? And I like genuinely was like, this is sad. I hope he's okay. And then he did reach out after I like put out an episode and tried to email him and just say, hey, I did this. Hopefully it's okay with you. And he goes, nope, I'm still alive, still writing stories. Actually, I've got a movie, because he makes a lot of movies now.
Yeah.
And he's like, I got a movie on Amazon and these other places. And he said, you can read anything you want. Don't even ask for permission. Just go. And I was like, okay, awesome. So
what a cutie.
He's a very sweet guy.
Yeah.
His writing
is
brilliant. No, exactly. Completely unaware of some of the writing issues, but doesn't seem to care.
No, I love that we learn the ship's name 3/4 of the way through the story.
Yeah.
Along with the really both ships, right? We learn their names.
Severtooth ship.
There's power in a name. So he is holding off on that power. He's edging us.
That he is edging. That's a very good point, because the thing is you're reading about the ship, and you're like, okay, like now I'm seeing it. You don't get that from a lot of authors. They don't drill something into you so that you can really get a sense of what it is they're talking about. And then beyond that, how do we connect with sort of the protagonist of the story, which would be Captain Bloody Bones? Do we connect by this character by learning more about them? Do we learn about his past, his struggles that led up to piracy? We don't. We learn it through the repetitive nature of saying his name at the beginning of every sentence. Is a genius way of making you connect with a character without having to spell it out.
Yeah, it's Stockholm Syndrome.
That is perfect. It's Stockholm Syndrome. It's Stockholm Syndrome.
Because there's no other reason to care about him, but when he's getting his teeth cut out of him, you kind of do care about him.
You care. And what was it? A Severtooth? Severtooth, yeah. And so we learn Severtooth, which is this brand new pirate, the young upstart that's going to take over the old system and become the new king pirate. What do we need to know about him? He severs teeth, probably from a nice sharp knife, as I said earlier, a katana. He severs teeth. And that's kind of his thing. We learn later he named his ship after how he severs teeth.
Right.
But the thing is, Stockholm Syndrome. If I'm being held up at a bank by someone and they're, pointing their gun at me, get down on the floor, stop crying, you shit your pants, take your pants off, throw it in the garbage, that kind of thing. And it's like, I'm not going to say, what was your childhood like? I'm going to respect the demands And as long as he's in my face enough, it's the Stockholm Syndrome, I'm going to learn to love this guy with the gun that doesn't like that I poop myself. So it's the same thing with this story. So now we got Severtooth. Well, how are we going to learn to love Severtooth? Hammer the name. Hammer that name. Hammer that name. Find out he loves the severed teeth.
You could, or if there were to be a sequel, I would imagine maybe we cheer when he himself has his teeth severed.
If we would have gotten that far. They do allude to another pirate will take his place.
Well, it's the circle of life, right?
Circle of pirates.
So someday he'll be old and his teeth will be weak in his jaw.
Oh.
I'm sure he's going to be afflicted by scurvy and gingivitis, so that's bad for the gums.
That's true because he's not eating hearts or anything, so he's dependent on fruit. And if he doesn't have the right fruit, he's going to get the scurvy. Or can you have any fruit?
So vitamin C is what prevents scurvy.
Yeah, but what if he's only got pears?
Then he's going to get scurvy.
Oh, see. Severtooth probably isn't thinking that far ahead, from what we understand of him.
Well, probably.
He's a live-for-the-moment guy.
I'm assuming that this isn't set in modern times, given their ships and their gold.
No.
So they're floating around with all this gold, never stopping anywhere to do anything with the gold.
They can't touch land.
Right.
Which means, I wonder, how do they get supplies unless they find deserted islands and they're just like, hey guys, we've hit an island full of cocoa nuts. And we might get scurvy again, but we are flush with cocoa nuts. But they don't get to get other supplies like cigarettes or salt to put on their mangoes or whatever they wind up getting a load of. So do you think pirates stop in mid-ocean and just trade sometimes instead of loot and pillage and cut teeth? Or eat hearts?
Not these particular pirates.
Okay.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
No, they're too bloodthirsty, as we've heard repeatedly.
That's true.
And another thing, so I think we can inherently respect Johnny Bones, Captain Johnny Bones, because his crew organically gave him the name Bloody Bones, Captain Bloody Bones, versus Severtooth just showed up and said, hey, I'm Severtooth. Oh, you give yourself that nickname? You give yourself that nickname?
That's a very good point. Because it's kind of like rap names. You kind of don't give it to yourself. Every story you hear is they did something, they got that name, they earned that name.
The community.
Yeah, the community gave you that name. But then here's Bloody Bones. But Severtooth doesn't know that Bloody Bones got it from his own adoring crew. Who said
they never leave anyone alive, so how does anyone know about them at all?
That's true. If they would have left some, they did try to send that message early in the story, but they didn't leave anyone alive. Because again, pirates are hand to mouth. They don't think very far ahead. They just sort of live in the moment. So Severtooth is giving him a hard time not knowing the full story, but we know the full story.
We do. And we're the only important people.
We're the observer in this. Penelope?
Tableau.
Tableau, thank you.
Tableau vivant.
That's exactly what I was trying to say. Okay, well, so then, and then now it's Captain Severtooth sailing the Severtooth, who had just conquered Captain Bloody Bones on the SS Bloody Bones.
Yeah.
And so we learned, it's a journey where you start out not knowing much. You get 3/4 of the way in. You get a little history of Bloody Bones as you experience it live there in front of you, where the crew says, we're going to call you Bloody Bones. You should call yourself Bloody Bones. And apparently probably renamed his ship Bloody Bones right there on the spot. Unless the ship was called that ahead of time.
You know what? That's why they all mysteriously started dying. It's really bad luck to rename a boat.
Oh, I didn't know that. I didn't know you had a nautical history. Was perhaps your father a sailor?
He has a sailboat that he takes out on a lake.
He's a rich pile of shit.
No, it doesn't have a motor.
Oh, it's a sailboat.
It's a literal sailboat.
Pretentious pile of shit. Okay, well, let's move on to our next story. And what did we decide that's...
He shares it with another man.
He does?
Yeah, his neighbor across the street, Bill, they went in halvesies on a boat and they sailed together.
Frankenstein by Drac von Stoller. It all began around the 15th century when a man by the name of Henry von Schmidt's obsession with grave robbing got out of control. Henry stumbled into a grave with a pentagram etched on the tombstone and noticed writing on the tombstone. This is where we begin this repetitive, so we learn about the importance of it by just repeating it over and over versus learning the history.
And how salient that there's writing on the tombstone. You think I don't think I've ever seen writing on a tombstone that's novel. So curious.
Yeah, historically, tombstones were just used as a slab of wood or rock of some sort, just to say there's a body here. Don't eat over it.
Yeah.
Don't drink any waters that might come from it.
Yeah.
This has writing on it, which is kind of new for its time in the 15th century. I don't think they even started that. So they're kind of ahead of their time. It is curious. It read, "Whosoever desecrates Richard Valence III's final resting place will surely die." And that's 2 exclamation points, so that's very important. Henry laughed it off. Hogwash. Some children probably wrote those words and made up a story so townspeople would think the cemetery was haunted. They probably thought it would give them some kind of entertainment, since there wasn't much excitement in this little town called Vampenstein. This legend has it that the town's name was changed to Vampenstein after an experiment went very wrong by a mad doctor called Dr. Lufenstein. According to one of the old townspeople, Dr. Lufenstein's experiments survived the fire. They were supposedly kept hidden in the home of a prominent Freemason and later passed down to a Grand Mason, to be locked in a vault in some unknown location. It is said that Dr. Lufenstein wanted to make a vampire/Frankenstein being with superhuman strength that would do whatever he commanded. He would call this being Vampenstein. Henry had no idea what the ramifications of the desecration of Richard Valence III's grave would bring him.
But he was warned.
Well, he was warned, but he thought it was little kids playing a prank. So the thing is, they would historically, there's no reason to believe that ghosts would be at a graveyard. That was kind of made up over time to keep people from eating sandwiches over them or drinking from any waters that might pass through the graveyard. So it's haunted. There's ghosts. What's a ghost? It's an invisible person buried here in this graveyard. The whole concept of ghosts was all made up to just keep people away from disease areas.
Is that what ghosts are?
Yeah.
Invisible people.
Invisible people, yeah.
Yeah.
Henry had no idea what the ramifications... Oh, I already read that part. As Henry was removing the wooden stake from the... Okay, I should go back up. Henry had no idea what the ramifications of the desecration of Richard Valence III's grave would bring him. It was too late to turn back now. Henry had already dug up the grave, stole the jewels that were on the skeletal remains, and, as Henry always did, went to leave his mark by decapitating the remains with his shovel. As Henry was removing the wooden stake from the corpse for a souvenir, the remains began to twitch with life. Henry wiped his eyes in a total amazement at what was happening right before his eyes, but it was too late for poor Henry. He tried raised his shovel to decapitate the corpse. But the corpse was alive. As the shovel approached Richard's neck, he knocked it out of Henry's hands, raised up and grabbed Henry by the head. He's got a long arm, and twisted poor Henry's head right off his shoulders. Ooh. Richard was now Vampenstein, and he had an unquenchable thirst for blood and destruction. Vampenstein reached down, pulled Henry's lifeless body up from the ground, and began sucking every last drop of blood from its body. And when he was finished with Henry's corpse, he broke the body into over his leg and tossed it effortlessly into the grave like a rag doll. Vampenstein was no ordinary monster. Oh, he had the strength of 10 men. He towered at 6 feet tall. Wow, holy shit, 6 feet tall. He had keen eyesight, could fly and leap over tall buildings in a single bound. All Vampenstein had on his mind was reclaiming Dr. Lufenstein's castle as his own and living off the other living beings. Vampenstein flew off into the sky in search of Dr. Lufenstein's castle, which was not far from where the creature was laid to rest. The sky was very dark and gloomy, and the winds were howling. But it wasn't about to stop Vampenstein from finding the castle. With his keen eyesight, he could see the castle just beyond the valley. It was now sundown and beginning to storm. Thunder was pounding off in the distance and lightning was crackling. Then came a fierce rain with a strong wind behind it, but the storm was no match for Vampenstein. He glided right through it as if it was no storm at all. Vampenstein finally reached the castle and landed at its drawbridge. He pounded the door and was greeted by Dr. Lufenstein IV. "We've been expecting you for a long time," said the doctor. "Now that you're here, we need to finish the experiment my great-great-grandfather, Dr. Lufenstein, I was working on. Come on in. I'll tell you what happened to him and why your life was ended by the townspeople." Now, Vampenstein entered the castle and felt somehow at ease as he followed the doctor down to his lab. It was the very lab where he, Richard Valance III, was transformed into the creature he was now. When he entered the lab, Vampenstein started having flashbacks that were terrifying to him. Oh, he could once again feel the agonizing pain he went through during the transformation. He started having chest pains, and the doctor instructed him to lay down on the operating table. Dr. Lufenstein got out his sterile instruments, cut open Vampenstein's shirt, and discovered his shirt with sterile instruments, and discovered that the stake was removed from his chest and severely damaged his heart. It needed to be replaced, or he would soon perish. Dr. Lufenstein assured Vampenstein that he would find him a new heart, but that he would be back to normal in a few days. And so he set out to find a strong heart, knowing that finding a match is risky because of organ rejection. What about the guy he just killed? All right. After a few days...
Wait.
Sorry.
So, he's a vampire. He's been made vampire.
Vampire, yeah.
Yeah. So the stake was removed, and he came back to life.
Yes.
But the removal of the stake is what damaged his heart?
Yep.
I understand now.
Okay, you understand that? And the thing is, they need to find a new heart, which is going to be tough because of organ rejection.
Yeah, did they have blood typing in the 15th century?
Apparently.
Are we still there?
Yes, we are.
Yeah.
Yep, we are.
And they have sterile instruments, and they know about organ rejection.
Which, if you're going to cut open a shirt, it's easier to sew a shirt back up if you use a sterile instrument to cut it.
It is, yeah.
Instead of like a blunt, dirty, rusty knife.
Yeah.
So yeah, they did. And there is a heart back at the grave he just came from of a guy whose head he just ripped off, but...
They probably need a fresh heart.
Well, it was like maybe half hour. Man, how fresh are you going to get this heart?
Well, they didn't say how long it took him to fly there, just that the castle was beyond the valley.
I'm guessing a half hour tops. They said it wasn't far from the graveyard.
But this doctor can't fly, and he doesn't know about that. And the monster has not told him, presumably.
That's a good point. And the studies were done.
So, yeah.
After a few days, Dr. Lucien thought he found a good match for Vampenstein. There was no time to waste. The monster was getting weaker and becoming frustrated with how long it was taking Dr. Lufenstein. When the doctor finally entered the lab, Vampenstein was eagerly awaiting his transplant. "Vampenstein, I believe I found the perfect match." Vampenstein grabbed the doctor by the throat and stared into the doctor's eyes with blazing red eyes. "This better be the one, or I'll be taking yours." "Yeah," Dr. Lufenstein laughed. "Yeah, you need me, and besides, you're too weak to do anything about it. So you shut your mouth and let me do what I do best. Why don't you turn around and look at who I brought to make sure this operation is a success," Vampenstein said with malice. "I believe you heard of the werewolf who would love to rip you to shreds. I've also brought along a couple of my closest vampire friends who would also love to drain all the blood from your body." So there's a network. There's also a werewolf?
Where did the werewolf come from?
I'm not sure. Apparently while Lufenstein was out looking for the perfect heart.
He was making friends on Reddit?
Probably. Anyone in this area was wolf. One guy's, where do you want to meet up? My house.
My dad's not home.
My dad's not home. It's not, okay. Well, Dr. Lufenstein wiped the sweat from his forehead, opened his medicine bag, and laid out his instruments and told Vampenstein that he was going to have to put him under to keep his vital signs stable. Lufenstein successfully replaced the damaged heart with a new, stronger heart. When the monster awoke after the operation, Dr. Lufenstein assured Vampenstein everything was stable and that he should be as good as new. But a couple of days after the operation, Vampenstein started... I would like the idea of this. The rest of this story is just the process of, recovery from an operation.
Yeah.
But a couple of days after the operation, Vampenstein started having sharp pains in his chest again and rushed back to the lab. He picked Dr. Lufenstein up and slammed him down on the operating table. "You call this a strong heart? You've only got one more chance, and then my friends will rip you to shreds." Where have they been sleeping while he's recovering, these friends?
In the castle.
Just they got a lot of rooms?
It's a castle.
Now get up and get me the right heart. You've got 2 hours, and that's all. Well, Vampenstein was enraged and stormed out of the lab to wait. Dr. Lufenstein was unsuccessful in locating the perfect match, but he had one heart locked in the vault down in the family crypt. Would give Vampenstein the strength of 1,000 men and unstoppable by anyone that got in his way. There was one thing about the heart that only Dr. Lufenstein knew about, that no one else knew, that the heart was cursed. According to legend, whoever's body the heart enters and uses it for evil purpose will die a terrible death. Their body will explode, except for the heart, which will be put back in the box and locked back in the vault until the right one comes along. Dr. Lufenstein knew in his heart that Vampenstein wasn't the right one, but he had no choice but to go through with it. Dr. Lufenstein returned to the lab to tell Vampenstein the bad news. Vampenstein, I got some very good news to tell you and some bad news. I was unsuccessful in finding the right heart for you, but before you get angry and turn your friends on me, I've got some really good news that was right in front of my eyes the whole time, said Dr. Lufenstein. Get on with it. What is the good news, said Vampenstein. The good news is, I'm about to tell you, has been locked in the vault in the family crypt. The heart's been locked up for hundreds of years, and now is the right time to bring it out. And one other great thing the heart offers is strength of 1,000 men, said Dr. Lufenstein.
We're just going to skip over how old it is.
Yeah, and also the offers the strength of 1,000 men, said Dr. Lufenstein, period, end quote. This made, so he says it about himself, says Glenn. This made Dr. Vampenstein's day. Dr. Lufenstein transplanted the heart, and sure enough, Vampenstein didn't know the ramifications of what this new heart had in store for him. As days went by, Vampenstein felt really good and was acting the way the heart was wanting him to act, but it only took him a few more days before Vampenstein remembered what Dr. Lufenstein said about the strength of 1,000 men. Vampenstein frequented bars, hitting on all the men's women, which led to countless numbers of fights, which Vampenstein won every fight, leaving the men torn to shreds, unrecognizable by any doctor, period. I love that he's got the strength of 1,000 men. He's like, I'm going to go hit on other guys' girlfriends. Vampenstein was getting a bad name in town.
Surprisingly, people didn't like Vampenstein.
Yeah. Not that he's like this part vampire Frankenstein. It's just like, this guy keeps stealing girlfriends all the time. You can't fight him. And all the townspeople wanted him dead, but was too afraid because if they tried to kill him and not succeed, well, they would die like all the rest. Vampenstein would come back to the castle, drink a few bottles of wine, and brag to Dr. Lufenstein about powers he possessed, and no one, not even Dr. Lufenstein, can stop me. I'm the ruler of the world now, so what do you think about that? Dr. Lufenstein said. Vampenstein, I got to reread that. Where does the quote start?
Just start from the top.
Vampenstein was getting a bad name in town. Okay, was afraid because if they tried to kill him and not succeed. Okay, so this part's not in quotes. Vampenstein was getting a bad name in town, and all the townspeople wanted him dead, but were too afraid because if they tried to kill him and not succeed, they would die like all the rest. Period. Vampenstein would come back to the castle, drink a few bottles of wine, and brag to Dr. Lufenstein the powers he possessed, and no one, not even Dr. Lufenstein, can stop me. Period. That's not in quotes. Then, still not in quotes, I'm the ruler of the world now, so that you think about that, Dr. Lufenstein said, Vampenstein, period, end quote. I don't know what was being said to who there and who's saying what at the very end.
I think it's Vampenstein bragging about himself, and the narrator's describing it, so it doesn't have to be in quotes. But then that last part should be in quotes when he's
it should be in quotes, but he goes like, no one can stop me. I'm the ruler of the world now, so what do you think about that, comma, Dr. Lufenstein said, Vampenstein, period, end quote. So I don't know who said what.
What do you think about that, Dr. Lufenstein said Vampenstein?
Oh, I see what you're saying. Well, it says, what do you think about that, comma, Dr. Lufenstein said, Vampenstein.
Yeah.
Okay, I see what you're saying
so
now.
the Lufenstein,
got it. What do you think about that, Dr. Lufenstein?
Comma, end quote,
got
said
it.
Vampenstein.
Then there's the end quote. Though there's no beginning quote. Okay.
Oh, okay.
Got it. Dr. Lufenstein just laughed under his breath. And I'm sorry, that was a huge waste of airtime, but I got confused and I want to know what the fuck is happening. Dr. Lufenstein just laughed under his breath and knew that Vampenstein's days were numbered. So
But
he just
how
said...
numbered? He's been an absolute menace.
And I love that,
For
like,
days,
millions of people have died because he keeps stealing their girlfriends and then killing the boyfriends.
Village. How many, is he killing the whole village? When is he going to explode? I came here for an explosion.
What about all these women? What do they do when he hits on them, then kills the boyfriend that tries to stop him? And then do the women just kind of stand around being like...
15th century, probably join a nunnery.
Maybe a nunnery. Sure. Or like, oh, I guess... that my husband, my marriage opportunities are done, so time to get to whoring. One of those two.
But there aren't enough men to buy.
There's got to be like 5 desperate men. Anyways, his days are numbered. Said, that's really good. That's really good what you're doing, knowing in the back of his mind that he was really thinking that. Okay. After a few more days, Vampenstein...
So what we're learning is that Dr. Lufenstein is a frenemy. He's like, oh, you're doing so good, sweetie. You're so good at being a monster.
I feel like you said that to me when I said, I'm thinking about starting up another podcast. And you said, that's really good what you're doing.
That's a quote.
That's a quote from back in 2021. Knowing in the back of his mind that he wasn't really thinking that. After a few more days, that's exactly like you. After a few more days, Vampenstein ripping men to pieces, and the heart said, that's enough. It's time for the curse to take hold of this ruthless beast of a man and end this once and for all. The heart led Vampenstein to the top of the castle where he could look out over the town and yell out, I'm your ruler and you'll do what I command you, said Vampenstein. End quote. Vampenstein turned, popped off the top of a wine bottle, chugged it down, and as he raised his head and arms far and wide, the curse took hold, and Vampenstein exploded. Then Dr. Lufenstein came over to the flesh that was left, and there was the beating heart, and reached down, picked it up, and put it into the box, and carried it back to lock it up in the vault where it's going to stay for a very long time. Dr. Lufenstein said, poor soul, I was really hoping Vampenstein was the perfect monster, but I was wrong. Now I'll just go down to the lab and give the experiment another try. Maybe this time I'll have my perfect monster. We may never know. The end.
So he's confirming he is the original doctor. Because I know there was something earlier where he was like, that I did. I mean, my great-grandfather.
Oh, I missed that part.
Yeah.
Because I'm just kind of trying to understand what I'm reading.
Lots of layers here.
But that's what makes the story challenging. It's like Kerouac on the road. There's no punctuation until it's the end of the chapter. Like no periods, just a lot of commas, semicolons, a stray quote. And we see that here. He messes with your perception of the story by messing with who said what. And did they start talking? And when they mention, Vampenstein said, end quote, it really makes you think about...
Are we paraphrasing here, or is this verbatim? What's actually happening?
It plays with the...
Who's the monster?
Is the third person telling you this, or are you hearing it from the protagonist directly? It plays with that. It does a little dance. And it really makes you rethink what you're reading.
Right. Right, and whose perspective is winning out here? Because history is written by the victors, right? So is it possible that Vampenstein was actually the people's hero?
It could be. Is when he says, maybe this time I'll have my perfect monster, we may never know. Us as the reader have been the Vampenstein.
We are the monster.
Maybe...
We are the wine-guzzling monsters.
Symbolically, we're holding our arms out and shouting to the town, and we're about to explode.
I'm exploding now.
Are you exploding now? Is your bladder exploding?
No. Hey, big boy. Big man.
Big man.
What are you doing?
Just panting.
Just breathing.
Just breathing on us. And staring.
Yeah.
Well, that's our review of those two horrifying stories. That's our review of those two horrifying stories from Drac von Stoller. Overall, how would you round these two stories out? What do you take away from them as a whole?
I think these stories really make us think about what a villain is, what a monster is, right? Because there's always an obvious monster, and then there's a more insidious monster. There's Captain Tooth Removal, and Severtooth, Captain Severtooth, and then there's
Bloody Bones.
And Bloody Bones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But those are monsters that have taken their ego to create their monster persona. They want to be the worst on the seas.
So is Dr. Luffenstein.
There you go.
He's made a monster.
He's made a monster.
And
he's turned to us into
an
monsters.
even worse monster, just for the fun of it.
Yeah.
Even though he knew it wasn't going to work, he did it anyway.
So from these two stories,
we never really got resolution on the wolf friend, right? And the other vampire
they
friends.
apparently stopped existing.
Yeah.
I guess they went home.
Yeah. Well, because he became the best monster he could be, and then he exploded. So there's really nothing they can do about that.
So hubris, in the pirate story, hubris creates the monster. My team has named me Captain Bloody Bones. And you know what? I'm going to name my ship Bloody Bones, which, like you said, is bad luck. So maybe that's part of that. And then here comes somebody else with their own hubris. I am Sliced Tooth. And I am going Severtooth. And now I also, with my ego, am the most dangerous pirate. So these monsters that create themselves and become out of control, there's that story. Then there's this story of a monster that was created by Dr. Luffenstein, who hundreds of years later, I guess, or maybe only 5 days. We don't know how long this vampire was dead. The vampire Frankenstein was dead. But comes back, Dr. Luffenstein says, I'm Dr. Luffenstein III, lies, manipulates, and through manipulation increases this monster's monster ability before giving him the bomb heart. And then shows us at the end, we are the monster reading this. So hubris again, the hubris as a reader, sitting back, comfortable, reading a story. I'm not connected to this. There's no threat to me. Vampenstein is not going to come steal my girlfriend and then kill me as I try to stop that.
He might.
Doesn't matter. I'm the monster now. I've been turned into the monster.
You are the girlfriend-stealing monster.
I will be.
And you will explode someday.
We're planning on drinking a lot tonight, and I will go hit the bar by our house and try to come home with the woman, and you will be quiet and not get in the way.
Or else you'll flay me.
I'll flay you, just like this story turned me into. So there we go. Monsters are created. Is it through hubris or through the writer? Is the theme we walk away with. Thanks for listening. And we're leaving the country, which is why you get this real sloppy episode. But we'll be back and we'll actually read a whole book and review it later.
Bye.